2007, the town tweaked the language a little bit, just renamed it the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, and passed the law. However, the paperwork wasn't filed in time with the New York State Secretary of State, Department of State, as all local laws must, and so it didn't become law. So a number of years passed, and then I know beginning in around 2014, there was an effort by the town board and supervisor to get this going again. And then following year, early the next year, I was approached by a committee that was formed by the town board. I think Laura, we were on that committee, right? Yep. And it was called the Aquifer Protection Committee because at the time, the law was called the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. And so it was established to kind of reinvigorate get the law going again and help get it passed, tweak it a little bit. And so beginning in 2015, I worked with a group that was appointed by the town. And so recognizing the need, you have to understand, if you know where the water supply is, it's right adjacent to the Sawkill. And one of the reasons why it was put there is the aquifer is deepest there, but also because it is adjacent to the Sawkill. And the Horsley and Witten study showed what I think we all knew is that a large percentage of the water that's extracted from the wells there is what we call induced recharge. It actually is induced surface water that's filtered enough so it isn't considered direct surface water, but it is induced recharge from the Sawkill. So the Sawkill is the flow of the Sawkill, both the quality and quantity, is very important to the district's water supply. And so we thought it would be important, and the trend was going in that direction of protecting not only the groundwater, but also the surface water, which indirectly feeds the groundwater. So we included what we call the Tributary Watershed zone. And so that's the watershed for the Sawkill. And that's the green area. Because we're now protecting more than just a wellhead area, we called this we created two zones. We created a wellhead protection zone and a tributary watershed zone. And again, so this area here is what we called at the time the Wellhead Protection Overlay District. An overlay district, the town has overlay districts, is a zone, is a form of zoning which is on top of existing underlying zoning. So for example, some of this area is residential, a bit of it's commercial. The overlay zone, overlay district is literally overlays the zone and adds some additional requirements. So the Wellhead Protection Overlay Zone included the two areas, the Horsley and Witten Wellhead Protection Area, and the areas in shading here, which are the potential water supply areas. And what we used to define that was the outer boundary of the parcels within these two areas. So for example, if a parcel touched the wellhead area, we included the outer boundary of that. And that's why these boundaries are drawn the way they are. And the reason for that is, well, zoning districts are drawn based on parcels for the most part, and for ease of enforcement, for your enforcement folks, and for honestly for the defensibility of the legal defensibility of the law. Because once you draw these lines on a map, there's a room for a lot of error involved. And how do you determine where that line is when it cuts across a parcel? It's very difficult to do that. And so the trend in this is to use parcel boundaries. So that's what we did. And so that's how we came up with two overlays. Again, the green area was the watershed, and this area, whatever color that is the wellhead protection. So we drafted up a law, and we're pretty happy with it, and we sent it to the planning board for their review, because honestly, the planning board is the group that will be having to enforce and administer overlay districts, and that's what the protection law principally did. So we sent that, and it was rejected by the town planning board. We had a joint meeting before where we gave a presentation to the planning board and talked to their consultants, and we received their comments, and at the request of the committee, I drafted, and with their consent, sent a response to the planning board's comments, and we offered an extensive revision of the water supply protection law. For example, we got rid of the large green area, green blob, the watershed area, because it was believed that the town's water course and wetlands law would protect the water supply. And we made several other changes as well. So, so unfortunately, since 2016, I've not worked with the town of Woodstock. So that's where that grumpy face right there. It's my understanding that the planning board rejected the October version of our law in March of the following year. And then you had a comprehensive plan which recommended passing a protection law, a water supply protection law. And I believe that was in 2018. Then there was a natural resource inventory in 2019, or was that correct, Ken? 2019, 2020?
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
And so that's where we are. I would love to continue working with Woodstock to get you past the hump. Honestly, communities in New York, it doesn't usually take 20 years to pass a drinking water protection law. It usually takes 1 to 2 to 3 years max. And I know there's been a lot of issues and concerns raised for the various groups and committees, but I've always felt that that these things can be worked through, and that's been my experience most places in New York. I just wanted to bring, because Ken had this question, and I wanted, if Ken had the question, I figured others would too. There's a bit of map controversy, I'll call it, for the overlay zone. And so the overlay zone, as it's last shown, 2016, 17, is this area here. And in the natural resource inventory, they outlined it here in purple. And there's differences. And the differences is because the only controversy is for these zoning, we took the outer parcel boundaries of the orange area, outlined area here, and the diagonal areas. And so that left what some may call a strange hole here, which didn't exist before, but it actually was simply because we were drawing it cross lots, and we weren't using the actual boundaries of the wellhead protection area when we drew that. It's much more defensible when the town paid for a study to use this area plus this general area here. So that's why there's what some may conceive as a difference between the two maps. and so for zoning purposes, it is always best to use the parcel lines, and that's what we did. So I know you have other things to accomplish tonight. I'm not sure if Grant from the Health Department is on the line or not. But I would entertain any questions that folks had for me, or could come to another meeting to discuss. But you know, there's a version of the law out there. And you know, I don't want us to say I think we spent a lot of time on it, but yeah, I'm sure things can always be tinkered with and fine-tuned once again. But I think it's very important with what's gone on recently in New York State. I know COVID's gone on recently, but just before COVID, the big issue in the environment was, and it still is what we call PFAS. It happened down in Stewart, down in Orange County. It happened in my county in Hoosick Falls. It's a chemical that's in our bodies when we flush our toilets, and let's just say when we're putting things into the ground through other means, we're putting that in, making that a potential contaminant. And so that's just, for example, another thing that's just goes to show how sensitive groundwater sources like this can be to things that go on at the surface. I mean, they never expected in this little village of Hoosick Falls that they would have all these cancer clusters and problems with that. You know, Woodstock isn't Hoosick Falls, but still, there are threats within the wellhead protection area. So,
Steve,
any questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
I'd like to speak at some point also.
Hold on, I got the floor.
Yes.
So we did pass a law in 2007, didn't get filed by the next administration. Can you refresh my memory? Do you remember how close that law was to the one we have on the table right now?
Oh, we tweaked it quite a bit. That was our charge, was to quote unquote clean it up, tweak it, bring it up to, you know, compatible with what other places have done. I mean, we can go back. I have all the drafts that we did in 2003, 4, and I think the 2007 version is very similar to that. I actually, because I wasn't actually in the loop in 2007. Mm-hmm. I understand though it was very similar to what we had in place at the time.
Earlier. Yeah. And so how similar is the existing one, or has that been really tweaked drastically?
It has been tweaked, but it's been tweaked in ways that I thought would be satisfactory to the planning board in terms of enforcement. So a lot of it was administratively I think it was streamlined, I guess would be the right word for it.
Okay.
So, but it would be a very good comparison to look at what was passed by the town in 2007 and what we have now.
Okay.
I'd be glad to do that. I just don't have the 2007, and it wasn't actually filed. So, but I'm sure that the town has a copy of it somewhere. Right?
Somewhere, I'm sure we can dig that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think what I'm going to request is that if you're interested in helping, we would love to have your assistance, but to take Councilwoman Rickey and Ken Panza and a couple of members from the planning board and a couple of members from our oversight committee for our housing to take a week or two and read through the proposed law and then sit down and see if we can't come together and get a final draft that we could hold a public hearing on in the next month or so. And if you're willing to do that, we'd love your help. And actually, if Grant, wants to be part of that, that would be wonderful. So, Laura, did you have a
Yeah,
question,
yeah,
comment?
I have comments. And first I'll lower my hand. So first of all, the big question, and Steve, great to talk with you again, because yes, we did work together back, it was probably 6 years ago at this point when Jay Wank was involved and Jerry Washington and Ed Sanders. And I know Ken has always been involved and a great help. So in any event, what's happened since then is kind of, as you filled in the blanks too, is we did have the comprehensive plan approved in 2018. And some things like progress on this law got put on hold because the belief was, well, we really ought to know from the comprehensive plan which direction the town is going before we get too crazy passing laws, because we want to make sure we know where the town wants to go. And then let's bring these laws back in. So we do have a zoning revision committee, which I'm a member and also the chair. And the zoning revision committee has brought this law back up and has started to pass it around. And the big question, so a lot of people, the best of my knowledge, a lot of people don't have an issue with the current law, but the big question is which map. So the map, actually the page you had up a second ago, so a good discussion, the next one that had the two comparisons, the NRI map and then this map. And just to be open, as I've been with everybody, is the map on the left is the map that I personally would love to see go with the law. Because just what you said, first of all, anybody that reads the law and looks on this map, they know if their property's in or out. First of all, like you said, the map goes around property boundaries. It's not just a vague line. It goes around property boundaries. You've gone to the trouble, Steve. I understand that you're the one that put the SBL numbers in, so you know what lot you're looking at. And when you look at the map and say, are you in or out? It's a 2-color map. It's either red, you're in, or it's white and you're out. So for all the reasons you said about how this map was drawn, and also, so that's my thought. The NRI is a wonderful map for a lot of purposes, but to match this law. So I'm starting not being biased, but I know when I'm part of a team, I'm only one vote. So in any event, I love Bill's idea, and I'm definitely happy to be involved. For myself, for Ken, I can ask Peter, who on the planning board he'd like to offer up. I'm a member of the HIDF, but I can also ask the chairs who should be offered up there. And and Steve, you work with people, as you said, 6 years ago and even longer. If there's other people from the town you think would be part of that, but let's do it and kind of go off on the side and see what the consensus is. I know my opinion, which I just shared, but let's see what the consensus is, because we all, I think, want to get this law passed. Like you said, 20 years is a long time to wait to get a law passed, but let's just get going on it. And I'd love your help, Steve. And I'm very happy to, I'll volunteer to take the lead even, although Ken's great at taking the lead on things. I don't want to steal Ken's thunder because she's been wonderful on this. But Bill, if you would like for me to take the lead, I will, and we'll get going on this.
Whoever phone is ringing.
It's mine. I can't mute and talk at the same time, but I'll mute now. But I'm happy to take the lead if you want me to, Bill.
Okay. Judy, I see you there on the screen. Would you be willing to step up and be part of this group?
Yeah, I was going to volunteer. I also have a question or two.
Okay, so go ahead with your question.
Does this line across the top in the NRI thing cut through parcels? Because it's right along the road.
It looks like it. I assume you can see my cursor. It looks like it comes here and then just hits 212 and goes right across.
I can't see your cursor.
You can't. Okay. It looks like it just follows 212. So yeah, it does look like it follows parcel boundaries.
So I don't know why that's any kind of an issue.
It's just not as defensible in that it's not in the wellhead protection area, and it's not an area that is a potential area for groundwater development. So you'd have to justify the basis of including this area. That's all.
Based on that blue outline that you had showed before.
Right. That's why I'm sorry. I'm just skirting around.
Okay.
That's based on that line.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason that Bill asked the question the way that he did is that I've been doing most of the mapping that's being done in town at the moment. And In fact, at one point, Ken asked me to follow the outlines, and I didn't really know how to do that yet, but I've since found out how.
Mhm.
So changing map is a piece of cake for me.
Right. Just
And
snap,
I'm
what we
also
call
on
snap to the
housing
parcels.
oversight and on critical environmental areas and on planning board. It's weird because I do not remember this from 2016-17, and I think I was on the planning board.
No. Well,
Anyway, I'm glad you.
Bennett,
I'm a lady of leisure, and I like working with ArcGIS. So,
yep, that's what I use. Yep.
thank you, Judy.
First, I want to thank you, Bill. First, I want to thank you, Ken, for bringing this expert to us, and Steve, thank you for the commitment and determination that you've shown over several decades to try to help the town of Woodstock. We greatly appreciate it, despite the fact that it doesn't seem like we've taken your sage advice or we haven't filed it timely.
Hey, this all could have been avoided. Just kidding.
Well, thank you very much for really really stepping forward. And like I said, Ken, thanks for bringing him forward. Bill, I would encourage that we take a look at this from the Woodstock Environmental Committee, someone from the Natural Resources Inventory who put this map together, stakeholders in the community who are part of this, who own these properties or who are in these properties, perhaps businesses, rather than just sort of dive straight back in. Let's take where we are and explain it to a newer, broader group of stakeholders so that everybody this time will understand more fully. I don't know if that was the problem last time, or if there were other issues, but clearly this is needed. And I think the more people who see this kind of presentation can ask these questions will understand exactly what we need to be doing. So in addition to someone from the Housing Committee, I would suggest the Environmental Commission, the Planning Board. I would even suggest going to the Chamber of Arts and Commerce and getting homeowners who live in the district. Let's not just jump right back to where we started. Let's broaden it out a little bit. That would be my suggestion.
Okay, well, that's going to be a pretty big committee, but what I would suggest, I've got about 9 names on the page in front of me. And what I would suggest is that each of you go out and bring in different constituencies that would have an interest in this. And they can participate via Zoom. So where's Deborah Dewan? Unmute yourself, Deborah.
Yeah, Maria-Elena has her hand up. I didn't know if you noticed that. Bill.
Hi there, I'm here.
So I'd like you to think about a member or two from the Housing Committee and get back to me with a couple of names,
Okay.
okay?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay. Maria-Elena, did you have your hand up?
Yes. No, I was just gonna suggest, just like Bennett, but to include WEC or any of the folks from CEA, and to thank Ken and Steve, especially Steve for knocking up, because it's really vital that we get this together and just, like you said, take it to the finish line. So I'm in full support of that.
Okay, excellent. Does anybody have any other questions? Any board members have questions for Steve? Anyone in the public?
I see Kevin Smith's hands up.
Kevin?
Hi, Bill. Thank you. Let me just lower my hand here. Thank you so much, Kevin Smith, Board Chair, Woodstock Land Conservancy. We have, I think, 4 board members and 4 board and staff members on the call tonight, including for this presentation. Really appreciate the town's picking this back up and moving it forward, and Ken's efforts in that regard, and obviously Steve's. I think it might be a really good thing for WLC to be invited to participate in whatever you choose is the most appropriate process and committee. That would be great. Thanks.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
I'd just like a last word, Bill.
Ken, go ahead.
Well, Michael's got his
Grant-
hand up as
I
well.
see that, Laura. Go ahead, Ken.
Jung is on the call. Grant is from the Department of Health. And he started working with us probably towards the end of 2019, really to evaluate the impact of the septic tanks over the wellhead protection area out in Bearsville.
Mm-hmm.
His work and his support that we really got a much better idea of what that what's out there and what sort of risk it might entail and the value of the impact on the water system. So that was really a terrific help, and that was one of the major objections that the planning board had, which I think we now have put to bed.
Mm-hmm. And did you say Grant's on the call?
I see his name there. I don't think he was on originally, but he's up there now.
Hey there.
Grant, if you-
Yes,
Yes.
sorry, I did. This is Grant Jang here. I did show up a little bit late. I do apologize about that.
Well, thank you very much for the efforts. I know I was part of a couple of meetings with you and Ken, and we do appreciate the work that you've done. And I hope that we might call upon you to help guide this ship into dock and get it completed. So, Michael, did you have a question?
Yeah, nice to see you again there, Steve. We go back a long ways on this water issue. You mentioned PFAS, and I'm following it very carefully because it's turning up all over my home state of Vermont.
Yeah.
Do we have anything to worry about here in Woodstock? Are we testing for it here? Has it shown up? I don't know enough about what's going on here in Woodstock with regards to PFAS.
Yes, your water system, the water district has already sampled for it. I don't know what the results of that were. Beginning, let's see, we're in a new year. Last year, 21, smaller systems had to test for PFOA and PFOS and 1,4-dioxane. And so the town should have the results of that. They're not readily available to the public, quite honestly. I have to foil the local health departments for them. I'm working with a couple other towns in your county, and but to their credit, they give it to me. But Grant might be able to get you. He works for
Yeah,
New York State
so
Department of Health.
let's see, I do have the results on hand.
Okay, great.
Please, nobody report me to my superiors. Thanks.
Our
But
lips are sealed, Grant.
great, on this publicly recorded meeting. Yes, but I'm looking here, the Woodstock has sampled in the first quarter of 2021 and the second quarter of 2021. So that would be January to March for first quarter, and then between April and crap, had a month's work. June?
End of
April
June.
and
Yeah.
June.
Yeah, right, June for second quarter. And in all of those samples, no PFAS compounds.
Great.
PFAS was not detected in the Woodstock wells.
Great. That's good news.
Can I ask a question?
Who's that?
Judy,
Go right ahead.
I'm on a private well, and I have wondered about getting tested for whatever might be there. And the only thing I can find that anybody tests for is bacteria. I'm not sure what percentage of people in the town live outside.
Yeah, really nobody has jurisdiction over. So, you know, it's not a regular thing for homeowners to be testing for these sorts of compounds.
I wanted
and
to. I don't know who I could send anything to.
Right,
I mean,
so
there's no procedure.
So there are only a handful of labs that are accredited and have the capabilities of analyzing for these compounds. And unfortunately, these compounds are very expensive to test for. When I spoke with laboratories when the regulation was first rolling out early last year, I believe the quote I had was about $700 a sample. But if that is something that you're interested in, I can give you the names of some laboratories that I know public water supplies in the state have worked with and have submitted samples to. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what the protocol is for that, but I can provide the names of a few laboratories if interested.
I am. Thank you.
Okay.
Bill,
I work with the New York State Department, the same bureau that Grant is part of. There's a section that samples water wells, private water wells in communities that I work with a lot of times. In fact, we're going to be doing that in the town of Gardner. And they've put together a fact sheet that is online, that's available, that lists what parameters you should test for and information on private well testing. And their tests are much cheaper than these PFAS compounds, obviously. Typically, they do about a dozen different, what we call parameters, things they test for, and that costs about $275, which is a lot more reasonable than the PFAS. But it will tell you, base what's in your water other than bacteria, also nitrates, iron, manganese, hardness,
Bill,
iron, I said iron, lead, arsenic, a lot of things. And if you just Google NYSDOH and then private well sampling fact sheet, I'm sure it will pull that up, and it's a PDF that you can download.
What's interesting about this is I tried to find something on Google and I never found anything.
Well,
It
I
wasn't
say
like I
that
didn't look.
before I sign off here. Let me Google that here.
We don't have chat on this meeting.
hey, Bill, I would be happy to coordinate with Grant and Steve and finding this information and making it available to people who have private wells and aren't within the district and are interested in this kind of thing. I think that Judy brings a really good question up, but that she's not the only one who has it. So I'd be happy to help do that.
So if you get that information, then we can post it on the
That's
town
great.
website and Facebook.
Yeah,
Okay.
and also just because it's being recorded, if you Google, the pamphlet is called Test Your Water, Protect Your Family's Water. Test your well, protect your family's water. You Google that and put New York State Department of Health, you'll find it. It's a pretty good document. It lists what homeowners should be testing for and information on that. So.
Right. And then this is Grant again regarding PFAS testing. So as y'all mentioned, there does not seem to be a chat. I can send some of the information to some of the labs that I know that the state or other public water systems in the state have worked with. Is there a specific contact that I should send that to?
Grant, this is Bennett Ratcliffe. I'd be happy to take it. It's bratcliffe@woodstockny.org.
And that is Ratcliffe spelled the name
RATCLIFF
at woodstock.org.
woodstockny.org.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will say that I will defer to Steve regarding matters of private wells. I believe he has definitely worked more with private wells than I have.
Okay. Steve, Grant, and Ken, thank you very much for the presentation tonight.
You bet.
Look forward to, I will try to have a bunch of names for next week to appoint to a committee, and In the meantime, I would ask everyone here on this to delve into the proposed law that we have, especially Bennett and Maria-Elena, who haven't had a chance to look at it yet. And let's start to look at that and consider that. That's going to be, if not the law, the basis for what our document would look like. So with that, thank you very much.
Bill, if you would like, I'll resend the law out to our board because we do have a new board, as you point out. So I'll
Okay.
resend the draft law along with the 2 maps that that Steve showed.
Excellent.
Thank
Okay.
you, Laura.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Steve and Grant and Ken.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
With that, we'll move on to our second presentation of the night, the Housing Oversight Task Force. We're going to give us an update on the progress they've been making. Deborah here?
Sure, yep, I'm
Okay.
here. Okay, so I guess I'll kick it off. Kirk Ritchie is here as well, and Laura, who's on the Housing Oversight Task Force, and there may be others. So just wanting to thank you for having us tonight. It's a new year, and we're in the midst of our work, but we wanted to come to you and give you an update on the Housing Oversight Task Force and begin the dialogue with you and all the boards and committees in the town as we prepare our recommendations and working with our consultant draft zoning language for your consideration. I want to say a couple of things at the outset. First, that Woodstock's comprehensive plan serves as our foundation and guide. And second, that our work is firmly rooted in Woodstock's deeply held values of nature, culture, and community, and their paramount collective importance in this town. And so while our focus and name is housing, this is a holistic approach. After all, this is Woodstock, and we are here serving the whole community. So with that as a backdrop, the Housing Oversight Task Force has written the following statement. And you all received, by the way, just take a minute, you all received a summary. I won't read the whole thing. We won't read the whole thing. It's a lot of material, but it pretty much follows what I'm going to share with you and Kirk as well. So the task force statement is as follows. The intention of the Housing Oversight Task Force work is to make housing more available to people of a range of income levels and backgrounds, while preserving our town's unique character and scale and continuing to protect our treasured natural environment. So who are we? We're a 7-member task force named by the town supervisor initially in June of last year. And we all do different things in the community. We come from different geographic areas of the town, different experiences and professional backgrounds. What we have in common, we're all volunteers like so many of you, and we're committed to the well-being of the community. And more specifically, each one of us has some role that touches housing in the community. So I serve as co-chair with Kirk Ritchie. We're both on the Woodstock Housing Committee. He chaired the comp plan committee. Laura, who's a member of the town board, is chair of the zoning revision committee, as she said, and town liaison to WEC, Complete Streets. Richard Hepner, who's been a very valuable member of our committee, was a town board member and civic design liaison, short-term rental task force, and town historian. Jeff Collins is the zoning revision committee member, as is Michael Castiglione, who's also on the zoning board of appeals, and Judith, who's here, Kerman, from the planning board is also on complete streets and others. So you'll hear from Kirk more in a minute about some of the specifics of what we've been doing. But I want to mention one other thing, sort of on the just general side of things. We're a really, I think, a terrific group. We've never worked together before, but we've been working very hard from our very first meeting on July 6th, meeting every 2 weeks and doing a lot of homework and collaborating well together, and also with our consultant planner, Nan Stolzenberg. And the Housing Committee wrote a Greenway grant in the spring for the town to hire a planner for this work. And we're really fortunate to have Nan. She's exceptionally skilled. She's worked in dozens of towns, small towns in the Catskills and the Hudson Valley, and has a very strong background in both environmental and land use planning. So I thank you for, I thank the town for the opportunity to work on concrete steps to address our community's housing needs in this way, and in so doing, align our zoning with the goals of the comprehensive plan. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kirk to talk about what we've been up to. Kirk.
Deborah, thank you. Thank you for that. And thanks for having us this evening. We'll be brief. We just really wanted to give everybody an update and to talk about the future also. So what I'm going to do right now is just cover how from when we started till now, and then we'll get into this year's work that remains. Right away, when we started in July, the first thing that Nan did with us was work on, she did a detailed audit of the current zoning. And then she used that audit to basically educate the task force and to bring the task force together to understand the details and the magnitude, frankly, of what we were dealing with. And so she kept bringing more details forward and more details forward. And it really was a wonderful way to get the members of the task force aware of what we were faced with and what somehow Bill got us involved with, but he volunteered us all. And that became a really powerful tool for us through the month of July and August. And then in September, we changed our direction a little bit. And we started to work without Nan and to set direction of where we wanted to go as a town for the revisions of our housing code. And one of the things that Nan pointed out to us is that the code is really one aspect of what the town will have as, and then also there's a set of tools that we will bring to the town as well. Those tools are things like incentives for property owners that would help the property owners design or bring their property more aligned with the values and of our town and the character of our town, and maybe even also to make it more environmentally aligned with our values, meaning a more energy efficient home would be an incentive as well. And so another tool would be strict criteria within certain zones that we would use that would be held but to everyone that they would need to respond to. So these are just some of the tools, and there'll be many of the tools that we'll get into as we get into this coming year and the months that we'll be working. But essentially what happened was that we started working every other week and setting direction on all of the aspects of the area of the audit of those areas in which Nan felt that was necessary for us to address. Some of those areas were criteria prioritizing environmental protection and sustainability design and community character and scale. So basically what that means is that ways in which we could bring these kinds of values to bear in the code. An evaluation using, rather than lot size, which is in the current code, but dwellings per acre. So the reason why we would want to consider something like this is to allow for clustering to occur and save space for open space and to allow there to be more efficiency in the use of land. And so then again, tools for major subdivisions to achieve the housing that we're looking to accomplish in our town based on what the comprehensive plan set before us. So there's other aspects like one of the things that we'll be bringing forward to review with all the boards and committees is a mandatory conservation subdivision regulations. So this is environmentally oriented prioritization, if you will, where subdivisions will be subjected to hold those as a priority. So other aspects of it is the use of overlay districts, as we've been talking about so far this evening, and leveraging incentives to for rather than inclusionary percentage requirements, but leveraging incentives to allow for more balanced housing development. So all that being, this is just part of it. And then now Deborah's going to get into some of the other aspects of what we've been covering in this new direction that we're setting for the town in our housing code. Deborah?
Great, Kirk, thank you. So as you can gather, there's a lot of detail and there's a lot of material that we're going to bring forward to you in the coming weeks as we actually look at drafts of how these tools could look for Woodstock. I wanted to say, just to echo and underscore what Kirk mentioned, what we just had a long conversation about water protection. So, the environment and protecting the environment in Woodstock is so important. So when we look at things like conservation subdivision or conservation-based development, we're looking at these ways of having housing through that lens, and that's really important. Another tool that we're looking at is looking at our ADU law, accessory dwelling unit law, and see how that could provide through incentives and criteria some flexibility to create more opportunities for more affordable ways of people living in the town. And certain criteria, and there are other towns that have done this, and we're looking at that as well, examining what's been done elsewhere. But as Kirk mentioned, things like energy efficiency, character scale, all the while keeping in mind those criteria, those values, so they will follow in all of the any housing that we tools that we actually bring forward. Also, we now have through the Family of Woodstock and initially the Housing Committee, we've launched a home share program, and Maria-Elena has been very involved in that. We want to make sure that our zoning is going to have the right definitions to be able to incorporate that program. And also, Judith has been a tremendous resource in working with mapping. So we are looking at how to make whatever mapping we propose consistent with other maps in the town. So, just to make sure that all of this is going to align together. What I guess really the next part of our update is really kind of to look to the future, look to the next few months, and what are we going to be doing. And we've laid out a preliminary timeline for our work, and it's going to evolve as once we have draft language that we're going to be looking at. we've given Nan direction and details for moving forward, and she is working on language to update the zoning code, which we will be reviewing in the coming weeks. And then we're hoping to complete our review by the end of February, and then circle back to you and the other boards and committees for feedback in March. And then together, working with you and the other committees, we want to bring this to the community so that by May, the town will have a really solid sense of where it wants to go, and will be able to submit to the county planning board for their review and comments, so that by June, you'll have some feedback from the county, and you can move forward to proceed with revising the zoning code in keeping with the work that we've been doing together. I think, and we want to obviously answer any questions you have, but I think at this point we are really working very diligently to get the language that we can review, and so we can come to you with recommendations. But we really want to engage you and the other committees and boards in a conversation and get your feedback as we go forward, so that we're doing this collaboratively. I know, Kirk, you may want to add to that and also talk about, how the board can support this effort as we come forward with some details. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Deborah. Yeah, this is the first of a series of meetings we'll be having. We wanted to come to the town board first. Beginning next week, we meet with 2 other boards and committees, and then the following week, 4 committees. And essentially what we're doing is going to each of the town's committees and boards and sharing the similar information as what we're doing. At that point, we're opening up to each of them an opportunity to interface with us, the task force, on the aspects of the housing code that has directly to do with those committees. So as we get the information from Nan and the draft code that comes to us, which will be coming in the coming weeks, we will begin to share this with the boards. But our tour this month is sort of an opportunity to sort of open up the conversation and begin this dialogue with everyone, in hopes that over the months that we will all have the opportunity to collaborate on this, and we can start to feel like we're in this together, rather than it's just the task force off on its own trying to do something. And that the more and more we could collaborate, the more people will feel like their voices have been heard and that they've contributed. Already, I know that I've received some information today from the tree committee, and that I'm forwarding that over to the consultant for that to be looked at. And that we expect that this would be going on all through the coming weeks when we're meeting with the committees and boards, especially the planning board, who's going to be on the front line. One of the aspects that we're seeking to accomplish also, I wanted to point out, is a set of standards that the planning board will be able to operate by. Much of the code that we've been living under for the past number of decades has really left a lot in the hands of the planning board to decipher and to determine how best to deal with site plans and such that come to them. The standards that we plan on bringing will help the planning board operate in a much more consistent manner, where the property owners will understand what to expect, the planning board will know how to be and what to expect. And so there's a consistency, if you will, that we'll be seeking in these revisions. And that's something we'll be seeking to accomplish. Finally, what we really are doing is that in speaking with each of you tonight, some of you on the planning board, on the town board, are liaisons to some of these other groups and committees and boards. And so tonight what we're asking you to help us work with them and help carry this message of collaboration to them, so that when we're with them, that they start to listen and take the time that we are together seriously. And then when we give them the materials to review, that there's something timely that comes back, because we're really on a tight schedule here. So we're asking your support as liaisons from town board members of each of these groups to give us the support that we need going forward. And Deborah?
Yeah, I just, absolutely, that's critically important. The idea that we really are all in this together, and we can move this forward together. We also at some point, once we have material reviewed, we want to come back and we'll have a formal presentation with our consultant, who is really excellent. She is really been tremendously helpful to us. And I think, you know, in terms of getting into the technical side of things, we want to make sure that everybody, every committee, every board understands what we're proposing, our recommendations as they develop, and then is able to provide feedback and input in this process and keep it moving. So I think to what Kirk said about each of you and your roles in other boards, it's essential. And it's a great opportunity, and it's actually very exciting, because I think what's going to come out of this, I'm hopeful, will really put Woodstock in a leadership role in terms of thinking about how to look at these issues together: the environment, the community, our history and culture. So that's
Let me ask something. Would it be easier just to, with the Zoom platform, do one big meeting where you could meet with all the various boards? We could pick a date in the next, sometime next week, or even, well, if we gave it a week, that'd give chance to get the word out and send invitations to each of the various boards, or would you rather go board to board? More work for you.
Yeah, I mean, we have already scheduled several of the boards, the planning board, the ZBA. We have suggested combining some of the groups. I don't know, Kirk, what you think about that.
Well, thanks for that suggestion, Bill. It certainly would save us time, and we would be able to pull together in an audience and give us a better sense of how much we're in this together, because we'll all be together in one place. So if you want to try to arrange that, it really, you know, that would be up to the committees and boards to be in another meeting outside of the meetings that they're already in. And so that's something that may be a bit of an issue. If they resist your offer, Bill, we are certainly willing to go around and.
So who are you meeting with next week? What are the next couple of meetings?
WEC on Wednesday, and the planning board on Thursday. And planning board on Thursday. And then the following week, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's the zoning revisions committee coupled with another committee. I'm not sure who, zoning revisions committee, and then complete streets on Tuesday. Complete streets on Tuesday, the housing committee on Wednesday, and then the zoning revisions board of appeal on Thursday.
Right, but I also wanted to say that it isn't just going to be Kirk and I. All members of the task force are going to be participating,
right?
Because they're members of these boards and committees and have much more direct connection and you know, just in terms of communicating with the groups that they're already part of. So it's also, so it serves that function as well. But if folks are willing to do it,
you know what, why don't we do this, since you've got a pretty extensive schedule set up, why don't we leave it be? But if you could take a moment to email me the details of the times for the different dates, I can publish that, and then other folks, the public, members of other committees that might not be involved or not have a scheduled event, they could take part in any one of those. The Land Conservancy might be able to make one or two.
We're actually meeting with we're meeting with the Land Conservancy on February 7th at their board meeting. We wanted to go out to them specifically and speak to them directly.
There's one other thing that we didn't cover, and it's in your write-up, but it was a really important part of our work. We went out and did about, I don't know, close to 24 interviews with different segments of the community, with the business segment, with the faith community, with the realtors, businesses. We basically, I don't have the list in front of me.
Yeah, town employees were a few, committee chairs and town department managers and police department and real estate brokers. So we definitely went through a cross section of people and interviewed them. And I'm sorry I neglected to mention it
No,
earlier.
I think that the idea is that going forward, obviously, now that we're going to have something material that we can, we can be looking at, in large part, it's reflecting those conversations that we had. We didn't, again, we did this outreach so that it would inform what kind of things we might be looking at and the kind of direction that we were looking to set in the recommendations that we're bringing
And we
forward.
got some very serious information from them as well. One thing I wanted to point out in this before our conversation ends is that we anticipate to be able to come before the town board with recommendations, and then ultimately that would take us out to the public and begin interfacing with the public about this sometime in the month of May, in that window there, with this tight timeline that we're on now. And then, the county, then having to go to the county and go through the process that we normally would go through for that. And then that puts us into late June, July, is really what we're looking for the town board to have the opportunity to pass the law.
The zoning amendments also would have to go to the planning board too.
Right. We plan on working with the planning board
Excuse me,
a
the
lot.
Woodstock planning board.
Woodstock
Yeah.
plan, right? So Nan is set out in her scope of work too. We looked at the schedule, the seeker process, as well as the reviews by the county, et cetera, so that all of that is going to be factored in. And we'll obviously need to coordinate that very closely with you.
There's no doubt that working with the planning board will be the most the committee that we work closely with the most in the coming months, because of their role and responsibilities going forward. But we're looking to do that as best as we can, given their own tight schedule of all their duties and responsibilities that they hold. So we'll be seeking ways with Peter and company to see how best to do that. But essentially, though, we really hope to be able to work with all the towns and committees, boards and committees, and then we'll be able to come back to the town board with our recommendations after their input.
Excellent.
We're excited.
Yeah, it is exciting. I was just going to ask, maybe it's, back to you all, but if Laura has been such an incredible asset to our work, and has really been every step of the way. She's been through this with us, and I didn't know if you wanted to add anything, correct anything, or suggest anything.
Well, nothing to correct, but thank you for calling on me, because the High Def committee, it has been such a fabulous committee. And first and foremost, thank you to everybody on the committee who has really worked. And thank you to Deborah and Kirk, who have been great chairs. And we've been on a tight timeline. We've gotten a lot done. Like Kirk said, and Deborah said, we did interview people across Woodstock to make sure we had an idea of where we needed to go. To make sure we knew what people were thinking at the time, and working with Nan and setting some direction. It's a very tricky thing from the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan said two big things. One is we need to have housing that more people can latch on to. Not just affordable housing for the people that make the least money, but the regular working person that can't live in Woodstock. We need to have housing that more people across different groups in Woodstock can have. But at the same time of more housing, let's protect the environment. We love our wide open spaces. We love the natural part of Woodstock. And this committee, what I'm very pleased about is that this committee, working with Nan, has looked to achieve that. I know Deborah talked about, I think Deborah or Kirk talked about conservation subdivisions. Well, come March, when we start rolling out more details, you'll all learn more about what that is. But it's a way to get more housing, but also protect our open spaces. So that tricky part of how you do both, I feel very positive that that's where this committee is going. And it's going to be very important, as Kirk mentioned, the tight timeline. This is great to, and I'm glad that the Housing Oversight Task Force is talking to the different committees as opposed to the one big group, for the reason being that different committees have their own things they're going to jump on or latch on to. And this way it's a little more of a personal touch to each committee, because it is so important to get buy-in as we go along. What this Housing Oversight Task Force is doing is so important to Woodstock for the housing standpoint and the people standpoint, as well as the environmental standpoint, and to educate people as we go along. And the more people we get educated, the hope is that we'll be building momentum, because we'll do these presentations in January. Come March, people will start seeing what the proposed laws look like. And from there, talking to the different committees who need to live and work with it every day, and then taking to the broader community. So it's a large task. As we all know, it's a large task to get a big change adopted in Woodstock. But I really appreciate the leadership of Deborah and Kirk in terms of this idea that, well, we do talk to the different committees, we do then expand out further and then further and further to bring everybody along as we go along to look to get this adopted. So I'm very excited about it. And we all want to hear from everybody, because we want everybody's buy-in, and we need to listen to everybody to get that. So I'm looking forward to this rollout.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Deborah, did you have anything to add?
No, I think.
Oh,
that's-
sorry. Deborah?
No, I'm good. I just appreciate being able to come to you this evening early in the new year, and, you know, with this update.
Well, housing is very important. I think it's important to me, but it's important to the town as well. And I'm very eager to see some real good positive change. I think it's going to be very dynamic for our community over the next couple of years. Kirk, were you going to add something?
No, just appreciate being here. Appreciate having the opportunity to update people, and look forward to working with everybody in the coming months. This is an important period of time for us as a community.
And Deborah or Kirk, if you can just give me the dates again in an email with the specific times, I'll get those published so that people have an opportunity to join in a couple of different points. So, Reggie, did you have any questions?
No questions, just to thank you again. I second a lot of what Laura said, and with her follow-up. And thank you, Kirk and Deborah and the committee for all of your work, and just looking forward to seeing the progress you make. I think it's just smart to try to get as much buy-in as you can from different aspects of folks that are in town, and that you're trying to educate. So, you know, when this comes up in March, and as we keep moving towards kind of reaching some goals, that, you know, it's not like you're springing it on folks. You're really asking for folks to work with you and collaborate and learn about what you're doing. So thank you all for the great job you're doing, for all the time that you're putting into this really important project.
Thank you, Reggie.
Maria-Elena, did you want to add anything?
Nothing else other than just, you know, thank you for the collaboration and you know, bringing everybody together. I think it's really, really important. So
Excellent.
you.
And Bennett.
I just wanted to quickly say thanks, Deborah, thanks, Kirk, and especially thanks to the Woodstock Town Board who had okayed this Greenway grant. I think this is really an important thing that we should all look at. This Housing Oversight Task Force is doing amazing work because they were able to secure somebody who could do terrific work with them, help them launch and get them organized, and then let them fly. And I think we should look forward to seeing more projects use this kind of process. And so just thank you to Deborah and Kirk and the past board for doing it this way. I think this is a roadmap we should be following.
Thank you, Bennett.
Thank you, Bennett.
Thank you, Bennett. Okay, any more questions, comments from the public?
Just one, Bill. You said you were going to publish those meetings. Does that mean the town calendar?
I'll put them on Facebook and on the website. I can put them on the calendar too.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thanks.
Okay.
Bill, I have a generic question. The 2020 census shows the population of Ulster County has declined.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a housing shortage?
Ken,
Well,
our
we saw
population has
Woodstock's
actually
population actually increase a little bit.
Yeah, 400 people.
Woodstock itself increased, but all Ulster County, which seems to be has gone down.
I think what we're seeing though, Ken, and yeah, on the face of it, it doesn't seem to make sense. I think the issue is though that some of our housing is just so high priced. You know, still 60% of our tax bills are being sent out of town, which is a pretty accurate indicator of non-resident ownership, which eliminates a lot of housing for people who are not as financially set. And, you know, I think all of Woodstock suffers from that. I mean, everybody, the town is having a hard time finding employees. Local businesses are having a hard time finding employees. So, you know, across the board, it's that more affordable housing that's a real issue. And we're still, I mean, Woodstock, we're seeing tremendous sales. The county itself is seeing tremendous sales of folks from out of the county who are coming up to live part-time. So there's the issue. Even though our population has dropped, we do have a real crisis. So, Kirk, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with you, Bill, that it's really, to answer Ken's inquiry, it's access. It's access to housing. There may be plenty of housing, but really there isn't, because two factors, and Bill's alluded to most of it. Another factor is that any new housing that's being developed, the only type of house that a developer can build is a house for someone who can afford it. And that's the upper end of the market, because that's what the market is driven to. Very, very, very few people are in the business of building homes for the middle class and the other aspects of our community that we have right here amongst us, the workers and the first responders and so many of the other people and seniors. See, you know, there are many seniors that are unable to stay in Woodstock. So the displacement that's taking place in our town is tremendous, and that's what we're trying to address, but in a way that still stays within the character and the scale of our town, and not fall outside of. So it creates this different looking set of buildings that everyone knows that, you know, whatever, it just doesn't fit within our town. So it's there's many points. It's a complex question, a complex answer, Ken, to your question, but it really has to do with all the economics of our culture right now, and access. There isn't enough access to housing that people can live in.
Yeah, and if I could just add, if you go to Catskill Pizza, or if you go to Pearl Moon and you talk to your waiter or waitress, where do you live? Usually it's not in Woodstock. They might be able to work in Woodstock, but they can't live in Woodstock. And that, as Kirk is saying, is what we're trying to address, is that people that work here, it would be great if they could afford to live here too. And that's kind of how I would sum it up.
You know, and one other aspect of this is that we did have an inventory of long-term rentals, and then the wave of short-term rentals just eliminated that inventory. So we really do not have a very substantial inventory of long-term rentals. And long-term rentals is an important aspect of the inventory a town needs for viability. Very, very important. And we just don't have it. And nor does any other community in this region, for that matter.
With that, I'll wrap this segment up. Kirk, Deborah, thank you again very much.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank
All right.
Bill, can I say something? Bill, it's Pam Amy.
Yes.
I just want to thank them for all the work they're doing, and I really appreciate it. When he was saying that it fits into the community, I'm sure you know the house, the building that went up on our road, that really does not fit in our community.
It's an interesting design.
I don't know what the laws are, but I had people up to fix my stove, and they even said, "What in the world is that? It looks like it belongs in the city."
I
Anyway.
thought California, but could be the
Okay.
city.
Yeah. Well,
Certainly,
it looks like
certainly
a
not the Catskills.
Looks like
Yeah.
the warehouse. Anyway, the other question I had for you, Bill, way back when you, I think it was in the resolution that there was going to be water testing every 3 months on our well to, because-
I've continually asked Vincent to do that. He refuses.
well, you said the town was going to do it though.
No, we didn't say the town was going to do it. Anyway,
So-
if you want to speak more at public be heard, we can continue this, but I'm going to move on to resolutions now.
Okay.
Thanks, Pam.
And thank you for the planning board, all the work they're doing. They're, all right. Bye.
Thank you. Whereas Governor Hochul signed executive order number 11.1 on December 26, 2021, granting towns the ability to waive by resolution the requirement of applications for real property tax assessment exemptions for those senior citizens and disabled who received exemptions in 2022. Therefore, be it resolved, the town of Woodstock eliminate that requirement for those individuals who filed an application for senior disabled exemptions in 2021 for 2022, and such exemptions will be automatically continued.
Second.
Anybody have any questions for that? Usually folks have to come in and refile every year. We're just rolling everything over. I think Karen and Chris are both here. If we have any questions for the assessors. Board all good? Okay, with that, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody vote, okay. And be it resolved to accept resignations of Lynn Severett from the Ethics Board effective January 11th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now I'm gonna make a few appointments for the liaisons, and then we can go to public be heard. Pursuant to section 5A1 of the Como Stewardship Management Plan, Councilperson Bennett Radcliffe is designated liaison to the Woodstock Land Conservancy. I also appoint Reggie Earl liaison to the Woodstock Fire Department. I further appoint Councilperson Reggie Earl's liaison to the Como Stewardship Advisory Committee. I appoint Councilperson Maria-Elena Conti liaison to the Senior Rec Committee. I appoint Councilperson Reggie Earl's liaison to the Farmers Market. I appoint Councilperson Laura Ricky liaison to the Woodstock Library. I appoint Councilperson Bennett Radcliffe liaison to the Ontario, Kingston, and Saugerties school districts, or school boards, I guess. I appoint Councilperson Laura Ricky liaison to the Woodstock Environmental Commission. I appoint Councilperson Bennett Radcliffe liaison to the Woodstock Tree Committee. I appoint Councilperson Laura Ricky liaison to the Complete Streets Committee. I appoint Councilperson Laura Ricky liaison to the Zoning Revision Committee. I appoint Councilperson Bennett Radcliffe liaison to the Woodstock Chamber of Arts and Commerce. I appoint Councilperson Maria-Elena Conti liaison to the Housing and STR committees. And Jackie, I have this list I'll give you tomorrow, so you don't need to take notes. Okay, with that, Ashley, do we have public be heard?
Just Michael Veach said something earlier.
Michael?
Well, I just wanted to mention that Woodstock has lost some very important people recently. In the last few months, I'm just the short list. I've got Don Gregorius, Jerry Washington, and just the other day, Michael Lane. And I would like the town board, I'm speaking as the chair of the tree committee. They don't know that I'm doing this. We haven't met to discuss it, but I wanted to get the town board thinking of and being aware that we can memorialize these people who've given a lot back to the community. Excuse me?
Somebody's speaking now, but I have my hand raised. So.
Oh, let me
Ashley,
finish.
could you mute Joe, please? Yeah.
I just wanted to bring it to the town board's attention that planting trees is a great way to memorialize these people who have contributed so much to the town and have now passed. And the town board taking the proactive setting up, for example, a Don Gregorius Memorial Tree fund and publicizing it with our help, of course, we can actually, plant a lot more trees here in the hamlet. If we're getting some assistance and we're honoring, at the same time, we're honoring people like Don and Jerry and Michael Lang and others, as we've done for Jay Wank and Bill Harder and Jeremy, of course. So I just wanted to bring that to the new board's attention. Maybe this is something that we could get going before the spring. Spring is an excellent time to plant trees, and all it takes is a resolution, I think, just establishing a memorial tree fund for Don Gregorius.
We don't do that anymore, Michael. What we do is you can send, and I can get the trust and agency name, and in the memo put the individual. So instead of doing one for Jeremy and one for Jay and then having to deal with pennies left over.
Well, I understand, but what I'm saying is that the town board, by making a public statement that they wish to memorialize Don Gregorius.
All they have to do is put it in the memo.
That's the thing. I mean, give me a list and we'll make it public, and we can, because I'm sure people will contribute and I'm sure we'll get some great trees out of this. And so that's all I wanted to say tonight. Thank you,
Michael. Ashley, was there anyone else?
Joe.
Joe?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we could hear you the whole meeting, Joe.
Oh, no, could you really?
Yes.
I had
Go ahead.
it muted. Oh, well, sorry about that.
That's
I thought
okay.
I had it unmuted. Happy New Year to everybody. It's the first
Happy New
meeting
Year.
I've been on from this year. So just had a couple of things. I just want to know if there was a new court date about the dumping on Church Road, if there's a new court date for the removal of the soil.
So Joe, the latest I heard from the attorney, which I think I announced at the last meeting or maybe the year-end meeting, they're tentatively have scheduled the 27th, but he led me to believe they were waiting to hear back from one of the attorneys, but that's the information I have at the moment.
Okay, all right. And somebody had mentioned, I don't know if that was Pam or not, about the water testing. I thought the town was going to do it. That's up to Vincent?
Yeah, that's up to Vincent.
Oh, really? I thought we were going to do it periodically.
Right, no.
Oh, okay.
And I have been badgering him to do the right thing.
Right. It's just been a long time. Anyway, and then the second thing, and I'm sure you kind of have an idea, is the building going up at 49 Reynolds Lane. I just want to express how I feel about it, because I think we need to kind of maybe look at this as an example of how do we prevent this from going forward. So if I could just say, I don't know if all the board members have seen the building that's being built. And if you haven't, please come up and take a look. You have the permission to come into my property on my backyard to see what it's actually done to my whole environment. I was told that all the requirements were met, so there was no need for a variance to build this 2-story, 25-foot high, over 2,200 square foot industrial looking building. Every person that's come by says they can't believe that this was allowed and a variance wasn't needed. And I said, there isn't. I thought there were laws in place to prevent this from happening, but obviously I was wrong. When the homeowners first approached me, they said they were going to build a studio. And I said, well, it's your property. You can do what you want with it, figuring a studio would be legal and not so intrusive. I did research and found that the studio is actually restricted to no more than 1,000 square feet of floor space and may contain bathroom facilities and running water. I feel I was misled by the homeowners because when I looked at the compliance certificate, it had construction type listed as single family. Then I heard it's not a single family, but a combination studio and guest house. So which is it, and are there different codes for these? If you come down and look, I feel my privacy has been invaded and the serene and majestic environment of our neighborhood has been destroyed and turned into a New York City suburb. This huge structure has not only affected me, but also my neighbors. Do we have any rights as homeowners? I'm sick over this, has lost sleep over it, and even have considered moving, which is sad because this house has been in my family for 50 years. If there's no
Joe,
laws in place.
we're over the 2 minutes, so I'm gonna ask you to wrap it up.
Okay, yeah. So if there's nothing in place, we should maybe, can we review the codes and see if we could revise them so this doesn't happen to anybody else? Because it's really an atrocity.
Laura's got a zoning revision committee. We can send her out there to take a look.
That would be awesome.
Thank you,
That would be
Joe.
because it's really, it's her, everybody should see it.
All right. Okay. So I see 2 more hands up. Lorraine?
Yeah, can I ask Joe's last name though, since I need to follow
I'll
the
get
picture?
that to you, Laura.
Perfect, thank
It's
you.
Zarnecki.
Lorraine. Go ahead, Lorraine.
Yes, hi. I'm Lorraine Philber. I live on 2117 Glasgow Turnpike. I'm here to address the antiquated infrastructure on my road on Glasgow Turnpike. To me, it feels it's important to point out that when the turnpike goes over a culvert or alongside steep slopes, the distance between the guardrail and the roadway is somewhat non-existent. I'm wondering why we can't get better barriers installed, considering that we have such an influx of visitors. I have like 4 Airbnbs on my road with tourists coming through and then sharing the road with semi trucks, all sorts of different trucks at 40 miles plus per hour. And I was just wondering if somehow the town can somehow with pandemic money or better build money, somehow apply for grants in order to update this infrastructure along Glasgow Turnpike.
So Lorraine, just refresh my memory, roughly where do you live? You told me
I
the
live by
number.
Box Hill.
Box Hill, okay. So Glasgow Turnpike is a county road. The town
I
has no
understand that.
control over it. However, if you want to send me an email kind of fleshing out your concerns, I can forward that to the county and put you in touch with the your county legislator.
Okay, so even though it's county, all those barriers.
It's all the county. We can't touch it.
Well, maybe one way is better because then the county will have access to more funding to fix it.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Perhaps the county has more money to fix these barriers through build better and whatever it's called, you know.
They certainly got a lot more federal monies than the town did, so.
Okay, I will try my best.
So send it to me at supervisor@woodstockny.org, O-R-G.
Supervisor, I'll find it online, right?
Yeah, it's on the website.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorraine. Take care.
Yep.
And Betsy,
Hi, Bill.
how are you?
Hi, citizens of Woodstock. I'm Betsy Regan, and I live 2 doors down from Lori, and who just spoke. And I'm a painter, and I've been here for almost a decade now. I live on the stretch between Rock City Road and Plockman, and so does Lori. And I have written to you before, and you've responded to me, and you've been very gracious. But the speeding and the trucks has gotten so much worse since I moved in. Now, I know you're all thinking, I knew what I was getting into when I bought my house. All of our houses are close to the road, but I noticed that recently it's gotten so much worse. I don't know if it's because of the home improvement that's going on or building or whatever, but there are a plethora of 18-wheelers speeding down our road all the time. Right, Lori? Okay, anyway, I know it's a county road and you may have to, consult with the county and all that, but I have created a group on Nextdoor Woodstock, and you have responded to us.
I think, yeah.
I have scores of comments from the people. And I really just wanted to represent them and state most of their, some of their concerns and salient points. Now, a lot of residents say that Glasgow Turnpike should be a one-way stretch at some point, but I don't see this workable because they would have to cut down on a side road and go into town, which would be even worse. A lot of people have suggested speed bumps. I love this idea. I think it's cheap and we could do it at intersecting streets. And these trucks could not get back up to maximum speed between these speed bump areas. At least we can do is have more police presence. And there was an accident just the other day at 1819 Glasgow with injuries. It's a narrow winding road. We live here, we want to walk, there's bikers, we want to walk our dogs, and it's like, Bill, it's terrifying. I mean, I cower in the weeds with my dogs when I'm walking them. And I have to say, the county trucks are the worst.
I will pass that on to the county executive.
Thank you, because I've written to them and they haven't done anything. I guess they know the road really well and they go really fast. They've taken out my rock garden in the front and my mailbox a couple of times.
Okay. So Betsy, I am going to cut you off there or 2 minutes, but just to respond. So we have in the last 4 or 5 years requested a number of speed studies. The way this happens is we have to, since it's a county road, we have to go through the county, who then goes to the state. The state does a speed study. The first 3 or 4, they all came back. They said, nope, there's no requirement. There's no need to lower the speeds. We really put a lot of pressure on last year, and we were able to finally get them to concede. And I don't know why they didn't do the whole section, but from Rock City Road west almost to Glasgow, or excuse me, to 212. They did lower that limit. I forget if it went from 40 to 35 or 35
it did,
to 30, yes. But it was dropped some miles. The one other thing I will say is that all the speed studies that the town has done, and we've done a lot of them, while there are a few speeding vehicles, and I'll try to send you a few reports from your area. I think we have one that we did at Boggs Hill. The bulk of the people are going slower than what a lot of people think. But I will take your concerns. If you want to email me as well, take your concerns to the county. We did do a resolution 2 months ago, Ashley, where we sent to the county requesting that they do a speed study. We can't ask for it outside of town, but from Rock City Road east to the town line. And we've asked them to do that. So we're hoping this spring that the state comes back and studies that section as well.
Oh, thank you, Bill, so much. Could I say one more thing? I have another ploy that I plan to use. I'm going to pull out in front of trucks and go 20.
Oh, as long as you don't pull out so that you get hit.
Well, thank you, Bill.
You're welcome, Betsy.
Could I say one more sentence?
One more sentence.
Okay, I'm having a one-person show at Wham, which opens on January 29th. I'm a painter.
Good luck.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Okay, back to the board. Any last questions before or comments before we wrap up?
I have a
Great
quick
topics tonight.
Yeah, just a quick question. Have you assigned all of the committee's liaisons?
Yes, the only one, the TV studio, which if
Hey,
anybody
Bill,
wants.
can you hear me?
Yes,
This whole meeting's been going in and out.
it's terrible.
Right now, I can barely hear anybody, so.
You're probably better off, Jackie.
No, I'm just saying, I don't know what I'm saying. Whatever I'm saying, discuss it amongst yourselves. Yep,
Okay.
there you go. I lost you again.
I'll take notes.
So which committee did you say that did not receive a liaison?
The TV studio. Which
Okay,
that committee is pretty defunct at this moment anyway, but anybody who wants to step up, you're welcome to it. Bennett, are you saying you on it?
I know that we had also talked about maybe doing a youth recreation as well. I really am a little bit concerned that we should have a better scope of work for what the liaison does and how they do it. And clearly I appreciate your appointments. But as you know, as a new town member, I really want to help serve the committees correctly and serve the board correctly. And I'm just I'm curious as to if we could perhaps, you know, look at which other committees or task force wanted liaisons or was in need of them. I feel that maybe we do some committees a disservice by maybe not giving them full attention.
Right. Well, you're welcome to come back and make any recommendations. As far as the youth, Reggie has got the youth center, and that can encompass anything within the town regarding youth. There's no set criteria or job description for a liaison. It's as little or as much. And, you know, obviously, the more you put into it, the better. I am in the process of reformulating. We used to have the volunteer chairs the volunteer chair meetings once a month. I am looking to split that up into maybe 2 meetings, because I think one meeting, we were getting to a point where it was a little unyielding and it was not productive. And then I started to get dropout because there were just too many people on the call. So I'm thinking that maybe we take a couple of the committees and put them together and break that into 2 or 3. In that case, then the supervisor would be liaison to all of them, which is the way we used to do it. But in the meantime, if you want to come back with thoughts on additional committees, that's fine.
That'd be great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And
Bennett, can you include me on that too? Because some folks had reached out to me as well, wanting a liaison.
Okay,
So
okay.
loop me in, that would be great.
Well,
Thank you.
bring them to me, Maria-Elena. I mean, I'm the one that makes the appointment, so if we can talk about that outside the meeting.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
So Bill, if I could say, so I heard you just say, when you first said who had what liaison, I did not hear you say Reggie had youth center, but I heard you just say a minute ago that Reggie would add that on. So I added youth center in my notes to Reggie. Just want to make sure I'm not off. But the other thing is the main thing I believe as a liaison, because I've been one for a while, is going to the committee meetings and then taking your lead from the committee about what they need. Different committees may need different things. So if I were to write a handbook for being a liaison, it would pretty much say, meet with the committees, hear what they have to say, take your lead from them about what they need from you, because you as a town board member know a lot about what's going on in the town. The committee knows what they're trying to make happen. And sometimes that communication between you as a town board member and the committee is sometimes all that they need is more information on this or that to help them achieve their goals. So I think that's the main thing, is taking your lead from the committees about what they need.
Okay. Reggie, any questions before we, okay, move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, folks.
Hey, good night.
Good night.
Tomorrow.